Freedom of expansion. Feel free to explore, tell us to. If you needed the proof, there it is. We beat 1.0. Now, I don't recommend anyone grind the game like creators, and to be honest, probably most people are actually doing, because you're probably going to get bored, especially with the one glaring issue that Endfield has at the moment, which will be rectified, but as a 1.0, it's kind of a problem. There is no endgame. It's just not a thing, and I don't know why, because we had it in the betas, but I guess they're tweaking it. It's whatever, it's fine. But I'm here to talk to you because we beat the game entirely with 4 stars, and I did that more or less to prove a point that, as controversial as the gacha and pooling system is, you don't have to do it, which I understand that's not exactly what free-to-play friendly translates to, but it is subjectively a pissing contest to see which gacha is the best. They are all predatory, compulsive spending, fear of FOMO machines, okay? Just enjoy the world that you play in, I guess. That's what I'm trying to get at here. So if you like this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. But I want to go over a few things. Just now that I finished the game, we may as well talk about. Look, now before I get into anything else in this game, I do want to kind of talk about the 4 stars, because that is the main reason this video is going to exist. You're going to see in this team I was running Estella. She is free, but she's not a 4 star. But that was mainly just because I ran Rodan at level 80 with only level 70, 2 level 70s, 2 level 60s. 3 of them being 4 star. I needed some level of a healer, because the only other option we have is Gacha. And Gacha kind of sucks. he works, mind you, but I also just haven't built him yet. He is level 1, so I figured there will be use for Redalia in the future with limited resources. I'm going to be using that first. Alright, but to clear the game and to clear most of the bosses, if not all the bosses, this was the team. It was Antel. It was this 4 stack. And look, here's what I found, alright? If you guys are wondering what I'm running across the board, it is somewhat similar. The weapons are very underleveled, but it's working at least somewhat for the time being. Back to that Rodan thing I was mentioning, I'll put it on the screen. I beat it pretty handedly, but with the underleveled weapons, also with all of the talent stuff being at level 6 versus level 8, 9. I only have one character at 9, and that is Fluorite. We didn't do much damage, but it was completed. Now, you're probably seeing combat on the screen right now, and it is sped up. Now, it's sped up because this fight, I can't believe I have to admit this, but this fight took about 12 minutes. 12 to 14 minutes or so, something along those ballparks. So, in anything time trial related, it wouldn't have worked, alright? I feel like at this point in time, I have a very good synergy with the combo skills of this exact team comp of Antel, Estella, Flourite, and Akaguri. But it is just a, yeah, it's a tad bit weak until we get more mats to level them up. As you can see, I am as burnt as humanly possible. I have 10 purple stocks, and that is it. And if you guys haven't hit the 70s to 80s yet, 10 purple stocks barely gets you half of a level. So if you want to do the quick math on that, it's going to be about 160 to get a character actually leveled to 80, let alone 90. Let's not even talk about that side of things yet. So the leveling in this game is going to be an absolute grind. Actually getting the ascension mats is very simple and very cheap. If you guys haven't done much leveling up, much character eliting, if you can call it that, elite promotions is what they're actually called. If you guys haven't done this stuff yet, then yeah, it doesn't actually really cost that much. 80 to 90 costs a shitload, but everything prior really isn't that expensive. All right, if I was to go to, let's go to Endmin, right? As you can see, only level 20. It really costs next to nothing. 8 proto discs, 3 mushrooms, that only goes up to 5 of the second tier, and then 25, which is still pretty amenable. And then, yeah, 24 for 60 to 80, which again, it's not actually that much. Given the farming, when you do get to the high levels of the game, you could probably do one of those a day, if give or take, if you do use probably 70% of your sanity. But they're not necessarily issues. But what I learnt about the 4 stars in this game, right? I can tell you there is a very big surprise here in terms of who is actually good in the 4 stars and who is bad. Obviously, there is a big omission in Gacha, because I legitimately haven't used him yet. He is level 1. But the other 4 I actually used to the point of completing Wulin's 1.0 story quest, which has a boss fight at the end. The Agaloy wasn't really that hard, but yeah, again, just low damage, because it is shockingly 4 stars. But what I would say here is there genuinely is usability for 2 of these 4 stars. I would probably even argue, you could argue all of them, But if you were to run them in teams, I wouldn't use probably more than 2 if you're running, say, 6 stars or something. I would go 2 6 stars, 2 4 stars, or a 6 star, 5 star, 2 4 stars at the most. If not, have one as a feature role, just so you have more, you know, you have some more like dynamic team building, everything along those lines, to build further teams, further characters in the future, all right? That's probably something that would be a main good reason to build 4 stars. But if I was to say which 4 star was the best between these 4, I would probably have to say it's Akakuri. I don't think that is a surprise, but legitimately, you could run her as a sub DPS, even main DPS in your teams, providing you have an amplifier like either, for example, Antal, because he does give direct increase on his ultimates as well as his battle skill, because it gives heat amplification damage as well as heat amp on the actual damage output too. So like people are more susceptible to heat, you do more damage with heat, all right? So it is pretty damn good for Antal, but if you use other supporters, like Ardali is probably not a good example, but Synergy if you want with Ember and stuff like that for procs, Akakuri actually kind of works. She is pretty damn good, all right? Also, the one thing I found with Akakuri too, is if you guys don't know, her combo trigger hits on break, okay? When you hit the stagger is what they call it in this game. Yeah, the cooldown's only 10 seconds, and anything barring a boss fight, even borderline pseudo endgame if you want to call it, with like the level 80, level 90 XP farming and stuff like that, you are proccing that so goddamn much because the break is so high in whatever team you really be building in, all right? So I would legitimately recommend her if you are looking for, say, like some Sutra, mono fire comparisons, or a sub DPS in general. Hey, and even if you want to just try and see how far you can push things, like myself, you can always go main DPS too. Now, everything that pointed towards how good these characters were at the start pointed towards Antal being absolutely goated. And look, don't get me wrong, he is. But from what I found, Fluorite is kind of him, or her I should probably say, right? And she shouldn't make sense, and she doesn't. I am not trying to sell you she is insane and will eclipse 6 stars, but she can legitimately hold her own, all right? I didn't level her to 70 and put so many goddamn mats into making all of her skills rank 7 or 8, even pushing them to 9 probably as soon as I get the chance. I could do it right now if I really wanted to. I didn't do this for no reason. Granted, she is my goat, and I plan to use her in every team going forward just because it's a gacha game. If we do run every 6 star we do pull, the game's going to be easy and we're going to fall asleep. She is actually an insane nuker, alright? If you played original Arknights, similar, this might sound insane to some people, but reminds me a bit of a Firewatch in the aspect of you can just crowd control like a motherfucker with this character. Not that she groups them together or anything of the like, but her damage output is nuts for one main reason that I think gets glossed over a little bit. So as you can see in her skill, it kicks an improvised explosive. It kicks out a sticky grenade at any enemy that gets hit, alright? You can wait for that to pop, and it gives you nature infliction, which could be like an Ardelia if you want to use something like that, or anyone who kind of needs that nature attribute. Hey look, even really like herself, right? If the final damage sequence hits a target with at least 2 stacks of cryo nature, then apply the same arts infliction again, alright? So if you double stack, like double dip, if you're using a high skill point regen team, for example, if you're running Akakuri, because she is legitimately like an SP battery, you could, for Fluorite, almost double proc this on Ultimate Apex Prankster and just get so much more damage out of it. But the thing I wanted to mention here too, is they get slow when you hit the Semtex Sticky Grenade, and it does nature damage when it is exploded. Defeating the enemy also sets off Improvised Explosive immediately. Now the thing that people haven't really directly considered is if you read her ultimates, okay? If an improvised explosive has been stuck to the target, the skill detonates it immediately, increases the damage and size of the explosion. So this was such an interesting idea to me because I was using an ultimate thinking it's okay, it works, right? Oh, I'm hitting my mic, I apologize. The thing that really interested me is like her ultimate worked, right? It did damage, it wasn't amazing, granted, right? Because that's kind of the main quip of her. And as well, if you're trying to use her grenade for nature infliction, it is kind of terrible because it has a timer on it, right? Takes about two seconds, 1.5 seconds to pop once you throw it out in the field. But if you do really min-max and make ultimate energy efficiency work, and you farm the ult as much as possible, this combo of throwing the grenade and instantly ripping your ultimate in a crowd control situation or even on main bosses. I found on, for example, the Rodan fight in the combat you've probably seen, it does a lot of damage. Much more than I ever expected it to do. Bear in mind, also only level 60 weapon and purple gear. The purple gear is good, it works. It has some bonuses I have set up here, so I've tried to optimize it as much as possible. But biases aside, I would be picking Fluorite as a second pick of the best 4-stars over Estelle, probably over Antal. The only reason Antal doesn't get it is because he ain't a crocodile woman. No, I'm kidding. And the reason Antal doesn't get it is probably because of the amount of limited nature in the game, and the amount of electricity and fire buffs in the game is, yeah, it's just like that little bit higher. There is more, you know, on some weird, real odd twist of fate, you could probably run a wolf guard in a situation of where you are running an NSL and get similar output, right? And also, Wolfguard has Infliction Push, which is a thing that Antal doesn't have. In none of his kit can he actually apply electric or electrification, or he can only do susceptibility. That's really it. And for me, that's kind of the thing that makes me think when I am going to start changing this team up, for example, when I'm putting Adalia in there, Antal is the one that gets the axe, because in that direct slot, there are a couple options, right? With Fluorite, nature is like one of the rarest things in the game. People are going to have Ardalias for free anyway, so you can build this in conjunction with that. And also the nuke, right? You get nature infliction on the nuke, and then if you rip your ultimate prior to the nature infliction grenade, it amplifies size of the explosion and the explosion itself. And if you have min-maxes as well, and say you ripped a grenade prior, you will have 2 stacks of nature infliction, which will also then just double down on the actual arts infliction again, alright? So it's a scaling character, and there is legitimate use to use him as like a nuker. And I reckon, legitimately, if you're here for the fun and not the meta of the game, which is clearly probably why you're watching this video, this is what you should be doing, right? Build yourself a Fluorite, because it can get chaotic. Also, I'm yet to actually decide what weapon I want to go with, because we do have a couple 6-star weapons I could use that could make this account a lot better and push these 4-stars even further. But Thermite Cutter is probably the best option I have for, let's say, like Akakuri at the moment, if I wanted to make her weapon better, but hers is fine. But that being said, White Knight Nova, this weapon seems like such a good pick for the whole entire account, just for versatility. But that being said, I am also looking at the weapons of Wedge, mainly because they would work great for Yvonne, as well as they would work really, really good for Fluorite. So I'm kind of taking a rain check on redeeming these. I'm going to think about it more and then go with it. If you guys want a video on something like that, let me know by all means. I'll upload it as soon as I can. But they would also push these characters a lot further. Like, the weapons I'm running are not best in slot by any means. The one for Fluorite you can buy from the Arsenal's tickets for like 400 Arsenal tickets. It's good, it works, it is viable in this situation here. Same with the Fort Maker I'm using for Akakuri. This is also a very viable weapon. It probably works best in slot for right now, unless you want to redeem one of those 6-stars I mentioned. And yeah, I got no idea what to do with Antal. My current selection is alright. This works good, but it's on Adalia from that fight. This is like I don't understand the point of this, by the way. Stanza of Memorials, this weapon you see right here, just annoys the shit out of me. There are comps for it, but not enough to the point where it's worth building this thing and actually using it, alright? Mainly because of the top bit of Twilight. When the wielder casts an ultimate, operators whose elements differ from the wielder gain attack 8% for 20 seconds. So if you want to run synergistic teams, this is terrible. If you want to kind of run combustion or like electrification and that kind of stuff, it's viable there. But at this moment in time, maybe 2 teams can kind of deal with that. All right, so I'll probably avoid that. Now, Estella. Estella is good, all right? I had a lot of fun using her, mainly because the combo skill distortion that she has is the best pick for, well, this is what you build around, like, surprise, surprise, you build every character around combo triggers. But this is where most of it comes from. Her actual battle skill is good. It gives Kara Infliction, which also tends to help with Fluorite, because the combo trigger is when there's 2 or more stacks of Kara Infliction. On nature, you can use a combo trigger to do damage and apply Arts Infliction that's already on the enemy. So it triples it down, quadruples it down. But combo skill triggers with solidification. So in other words, whenever I rip the grenade on Fluorite, I instantly use the skill on Estella when it explodes, which again, with that timer I mentioned, the 1.5 second, 2 seconds, there is a delay and you have to be very conscious of it, because if you pre-ejaculate and just rip the Estella skill straight away, it doesn't do nothing. You're out of luck. Eat shit. Do not collect $200, do not pass go straight to jail, alright? So it's not as brainless. You have to actually physically wait for either the enemy being killed or directly waiting for it to explode before Estella actually gets use out of this. I found a lot of times kind of heavy hitting boss fights like Rodan or something like that, they do tend to make or break on those decisions. But that's why I've used these direct kits to get around that, alright? So there is a little bit of a forgiving deal I've set up here where I have on Catastrophe, and Catastrophe, when fully equipped, gives 50 XP when you use battle skills. Does help a little bit, alright? But you still have to be aware and not just make really dumb mess-ups that can kind of just elongate a run eternally from just making the dumb mistake, alright? Because when you run 4 stars, you have to really get everything out of them at all times, or you just aren't going to clear things. But Estella is decent as a good sub-DPS. I would not use her as a main DPS just because it feels like there's not enough there, but she also gives the ability of Lift, and Lift is, as I've mentioned in a couple other videos, the GOAT. The actual, probably the best physical vulnerability there is. Knockdown's good, sure, but Lift is really where it's at. So that would be my pick. If you want to run a sub DPS, you'd probably go Estella. If you need cryo, if you don't need the cryo, Akakuri probably all the way. Antel is a great buffer, as I mentioned, but you're gonna have to have someone else in your team when the end game gets put into the game for healing and everything of the like, alright? There is no avenue of healing with a team like this, which is one thing I did really struggle with depending on the fight. And I had to bring Adelia in to kind of mitigate that to an extent. Granted, you have other options like Ajayi, but at least Ardelia is free and guaranteed in every account. That's why I opted into using this one to kind of make it a little bit more relatable. And also, she's a 6-star. Can you not see how good she is? She's legitimately insane. But if you were to run a combo here of like 2 amps, so like Antel and Adelia or something like that, you would get some use out of it. The synergy kind of goes to absolute shit because you got fire and electrification amps, but your 2 suppliers are mainly nature-based. But your 2 suppliers are nature, electricity, but also you've lost 2 slots straight away. So you could probably run something like Arklight and then a Wolfguard if you wanted to run that sort of team, if you wanted to get Antal into the game. Because his buffs do have really good percentages. Like, this is only at rank 3, granted. But if I minimize my face game here, you can see that it is a 10% heat, 10% on both that last 12 seconds, which is good. Also, not to mention, you get heat susceptibility on the actual skill use too, which is 5%. So it's, look, let's not get engineering degrees out, but it's like 15 or so percent to give or take of every hit that's going to be done, with players like Akakuri who can kind of spam skill points similar to Wolfguard, because Wolfguard is also somewhat of an SP battery. There is legit a use case there to build a team like that. Antel is so elite for what he does, but I just think losing that slot of healing and the options you have in the same element kind of showcase, you lose a little bit out on them. But it's not to say he's not usable. So again, to tier list, the biggest unsung hero here is Fluorite. Build her if you haven't. She is so goddamn fun to use. Infinite nuker, and yeah, you're gonna have so much fun. If you want an SP battery that can do some pretty good damage and constantly trigger the combo attacks, I would be hitting an Akakuri, building this one up as far as humanly possible. Estella, if you need cryo and constant follow-up attacks, because they have a decent cooldown of 18 seconds. Also, do not forget she has Lift, and Lift is so goddamn underrated. I am telling everyone, if you ever get a Gilberta, this game just becomes a baby game, and you beat everything in 2 hits. And Antal, if you want all-around buffs pertaining to electricity and fire, just bear in mind, if you're going the fire route, I'd probably go somebody else, alright? Electricity, I would still be using him. Just takes up an extra slot that could be used for maybe healing, or a slightly effective team composition all around. But if you build around Antal, easily one of the best supports in the game. I'm not even lying when I say that. It's just the investment you have to push in to get that is always worth bearing in mind too. You need to get these to about 7 or higher to really get that there. So that's been the video, alright? If you guys want final thoughts or anything of the story, or just have any questions in general, let me know in the comments, or, you know, talk to me in the Discord that's also been found in the description, or when I am live on YouTube and Twitch, you know where to find me, alright? Twitch.tv/Max and if you don't watch on YouTube. But anyway, I just want to say thank you all so much for watching. I've had so much fun with this game. I'm going to try and get to 50 and max out Woolin's Factory, see how that goes. And yeah, that's been about it. Fluorite is the GOAT. I will be getting her to 80 and 90. I'll see you guys soon. Bye-bye now.